Good morning, Hamptons Life, April 14th, 2020, approximately 11 o'clock in the morning. Today is approximately the 30th day of New York pause, and life on the East End is ground to almost a halt, with the exception of essential services. April 29th, perhaps, the governor, in the recent news, along with adjoining states, they're getting together with a regional approach to slowly reopen our economy. Of course, they're all very concerned about COVID and spreading that around, so they're going to do some kind of staged or staggered release. Not exactly sure what they're going to do, and they're not exactly sure what they're going to do, but at least it's in the right direction in terms of trying to get our economy back. And this, of course, is all based on the fact that New York State has flattened the curve out in terms of the COVID cases. It's gotten better. The terrible news of the deaths are on the decline. The number of hospitalizations are on the decline. The number of new cases are on the decline. And locally here on Suffolk County, although I've been looking at the COVID map, it's still climbing. The last 4 days of confirmed cases has decreased each day over day over day, and we're expecting that the county is going to turn the corner. So this is all good news. But interestingly enough, the governor closed golf courses and marinas last week, and with parks being open. So at parks where people can assemble, I could see that being a problem with social distancing. I really can't see why a couple of people on a boat are going to be a problem, or a couple teeing off at a golf course. But what can I say? I'm not the governor or the powers that be. Locally, Southampton Town, they're cracking down on short-term rentals, Airbnb. The supervisor's concern is that a short-term rental would not follow the 14-day quarantine as prescribed by CDC to stay home. I witnessed that here in my community, where someone came out and they were here for a night and did some work around the house, and then they left, and then they came back the next day and did it again. And that's exactly what we're not supposed to be doing, is coming in and out. He should have come, they should have stayed, and all that. So there's definitely some concern with that. And the Village of Southampton announced last week that everybody has to wear a mask when food shopping, no matter where, which I just think is great. So statewide, COVID is flattening out, and Suffolk may be flattening out as well. So what's going to start happening now in the news is that the media outlets are going to start reporting that about the economic slowdown. The economic slowdown, well, of course, we're all home. So, and stores are boarded up and everything is shuttered. So I would expect that earning reports as they come out are going to be less. Of course, it's going to focus on our industry, the real estate industry. There's going to be less sales. There's going to be less mortgage applications. It's all understandable in terms of what's going on. We're all home. So in terms of new listings will also be down. Spring is always historically in America the period of time when people put their houses on the market. Of course, if you're home huddling with your family, the last thing you're going to do, even though you're thinking about selling, is put your house on the market and have people in. Here in New York, we can't exactly have physical showings. We're not permitted to do it, excuse me. We can do virtual showings, but still, if you're in your house and someone wants to see it, showing a vacant home, it's possible to open the door to let people in, but if you're home, of course, that's not going to happen. So sales are absolutely going to be down. And in terms of the sales, then the mortgage applications are going to be down because people don't need to borrow the money. So this is all understandable and expected. Listings will be down, sales will be down, mortgage applications will be down. In the mortgage market, there have been some pullbacks by some lenders, particularly on the non-bank lending side that use wholesale lines, i.e. secondary market investors. But the federal government has stepped in to buy mortgage-backed securities to add liquidity to that, so there shouldn't be too much of a clog in that respect. Now, thinking about what they're going to start saying, we're in a recession, we're in an economic downturn. I don't consider this the same kind of recession that was started in 2007, 2008, which was a housing recession. That was started by loose, bad lending practices back then. And since then, lending practices have gotten much stricter. It's gone back to stricter underwriting, collateral analysis, meaning appraisals or computer valuations. They're making better decisions. And of course, a lot of people are, something you may not realize is that people have to sign off on the application from the loan officer right on through to the final person who approves it. So there's a chain of people who are actually accountable now for a mortgage, where before they weren't. I mean, the loan officer just could have left. So I think that from a credit perspective, I think that we're better off with our homes that we have now with the lending. In looking at the amount of money that's been borrowed in the 3 years preceding the 2007-2008 crash, according to Fannie Mae, approximately 820 billion was borrowed. And in the last 3 years here, according to Fannie Mae, approximately 230 billion has been borrowed, or roughly 28%. So what that says is we have a tremendous amount more equity in our homes. People aren't as highly leveraged as they used to be. Further, annual home price appreciation leading up to the housing crash was in the double digits. It was frenetic, it was unstable. And for the last few years, housing appreciation has been in the single digits. It's been fairly even, which adds to the stability. So the last thing that they'll focus on that'll come out is unemployment. Of course, people are home, stores are shuttered, businesses stopped, people aren't working. So of course unemployment claims are going to be up. And Goldman Sachs put out a forecast that for 2020 unemployment is going to range around 15%. But going into 2021 it's going to be 6 to 8%. It's going to change, and then it reduces year after year. Three major institutions, Goldman, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley, all predict a V-shaped recovery. Each one of these large banking institutions manage billions and billions and billions of dollars of portfolio money for average investors. And these are the smartest of the smart people. And if they feel that we're in a V-shaped recovery and that it's going to turn and come up into the third and fourth quarter, I just can't help but be in agreement with that. So locally, so I just think that what we're in now is just a temporary blip caused by COVID. Albeit it's horrible. I'm not trying to underplay or understate the events that are occurring with COVID. It's horrible. And just about everyone seems to have some kind of effect with that. I, for one, not in my circle of people, but I can't visit my mother who's in assisted living, which I miss her tremendously. That said, so one of the questions, so how's the market? Locally speaking, again, we've had a tremendous surge in rental activity. In the company, they reported that year to date, they have performed just about 56% of their entire 2019 leases, which is huge. And in the first week, contracts, of course, declined. Right now, they're looking on closing, or anyone in real estate, they're closing the transactions that have put in place prior to this COVID outbreak that's occurring. It makes perfect sense because the showings now are virtual. And it's also less of a commitment to spend, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, etc. on a rental, as opposed to spending millions and millions of dollars on something. That takes due diligence that you want to look at, you want to feel, are you making the right impression? And right now the showings, while they're occurring virtually, albeit because people are quarantined, staying home, fearful, it's slowed down that market at the moment, which it all makes perfect sense to me. But I expect going forward that once we're finally released, that there's going to be pent-up demand because the Hamptons are always the market to come into. There's always been a rush to get in for summer. Spring is our biggest market, as well as the folks that have relocated here. They've relocated from other points where they were fearful of staying in, again, because of COVID. This is what led to our rental surge. And just like 9/11, after the crash, there are people that stayed here. Some stayed here permanently. Some bought a second home so they had a place to escape to. Of course, being fearful. So I expect, for two reasons, that we're going to have, once the market opens up, we're going to have a very, very busy third quarter. So right now, is it a good time to buy? I do think so. I think it's a great time to surf and shop for homes online, and perhaps chat with the agent. If you can't find an agent to speak with, of course, I'm available. I think is now a good time to sell. I wouldn't be nervous about any lack of activity. I'm sure that if your house is currently listed, that agents are already sending the digital information about your house that's around to them. If by chance you're considering selling, you may not want somebody in your house right now, but you can forward pictures over to an agent or myself. And if your house is vacant and you're considering selling, of course, then we can go in and we can do a virtual presentation or even FaceTime showings with prospective buyers. So I think it's a great time to buy. It's a buyer's market. It'll stay like this until we have absorption. Absorption will occur once the market opens back up again. Again, this is a temporary blip. Interest rates are still low. There is bank lending out there. I think it's a wonderful time to buy. And I think once we move forward and we have some absorption in the third, perhaps the fourth quarter, it's going to start swinging into a seller's market. Remember, 2019, there was an awful lot of price reductions, lots of aspirational prices reduced 20, 30%. This is what empowered buyers to come out of the woodwork in the fourth quarter of 2019 and move into the first quarter of 2020. They're still there. There's still buyers out there. I mean, I'm still working with them. And I know that once this releases, there's going to be a frenzy of activity. I really expect that. So I'm here. I'm John Watson. This is what I do. 35 years of direct real estate experience. It's not a hobby. This is my career. This is what I do. And if you need any real estate assistance whatsoever, if you want me to give you a FaceTime tour, virtual showing, if we want to have a video chat, FaceTime, or a Zoom conference, a private chat, we can discuss your needs. I'm certainly here to help you. If you need help in any way, just as a citizen here in the East End, I live out here because of the sense of community. There's lots of resources available for people. So if you're lacking in some way or if you need something, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm John Watson. You can find me at hamptonsrealestatebroker.com, 516-551-6404. Today has finally turned out to be a nice sunny day. Yesterday was just miserable with sideways rain, 68-mile-an-hour winds. It was quite a squall, but it's a beautiful sunny day. Go out, take a walk, get some vitamin D, and hang out at one of our beaches or parks. This is John Watson. I'll speak with you next week. Have a great week.